Hi everyone, welcome to another card video. I did a lot of Copic coloring today, so we'll get to that. The first thing I'm going to do is create my background. I used this Ink-a-Dink-a-Doo background stamp, polka dots, and I used real red ink by Stampin' Up. And I turned the stamp facing up and ink it up that way, and then I place my paper on top. It makes it a lot easier to get good coverage, because then I'll just cover it with the scrap paper that you've seen in basically all my videos and use a bone folder to rub over it. I'm using walnut stained distress ink to just ink the edges just a little bit with my foam applicator. I'm going to speed this up. Alright, now I'm going to take this stamp. It's actually a silhouette stamp, so it's solid. And I'm going to use Distress Ink Antique Linen to stamp it on some Neenah Solar White cardstock, because I'm going to be using Copic markers. So I'm going to get close up here so it's all solid so I can color it any way I want. I'm going to use my first set of colors in the brown kind of beige family. So I start with an all over light color, now I'm going in with my darkest and then my medium color. And then go back in with the lightest. And I kind of took out a little bit too much of the dark, so I went back in. Actually, I went back in a few times to do it just right. So it may take a few times for you to get it exactly the way you want it. But just keep working on it, and eventually the colors will look right to you. And then I used yellows and oranges on the petals. And I'm doing one section at a time so that the ink stays wet and it'll blend better. So I started with an all over pale yellow. And then I put orange on the tips, and now I'm using a medium color of yellow to blend between the light yellow and the orange. I'm going to do this for all the petals. And then I went back in with my darkest color, the orange, just to create a little bit more definition between the petals. So I went back and forth between the orange and the medium yellow to get good blending. And then finally I took a white colored pencil and I just added a little bit to the centers of the petals to add a little bit more dimension, and to the top, kind of where the light is hitting. I created some shadow lines using some gray. I think it's called Cool Gray. I'll have a list of the exact numbers I used on my blog. And then I took a colorless blender, which is just the number 0, and I blended the edges just so it wouldn't look like a gray line had been drawn, so it kind of blends into the white paper. I went back and added a little bit more, because the colorless blender really does take a lot of the color out too, so I wanted to make sure you could see it. Alright, now for the greens, I started with the all over light, and then I went in with my darkest, which looks really dark, but then when you add the medium color in there, it really blends nicely together. And again, I actually took a picture of all of the Copic markers I used and put that on my blog if you want to check it out at darlenedesign.com if you're not already there. Alright, same thing with the leaf. All over light color, then dark, then medium, and then light again. And again, I kind of went back and forth with my dark, my medium, my light, until I got it looking the way I wanted it to. And then I took the colored pencil to add the veins of the leaf. And again, the gray, I added that for the shadowing. Okay, now when you have all that colored in, I took my Spellbinders die cut and I cut it out, and then I took that same die and I put it on some espresso paper and drew a line around the outside, and then I cut it out so that I would have just a tiny little border around the flower image. I'm going to adhere those together. Of course, I didn't do it exactly right the first time, so I had to take it apart and do it one more time. I'm going to use this little thank you. And even though it's a clear stamp, you know, I like everything to be exact, so I went ahead and used my Stamp-A-Majig. Especially since it took so much time coloring that image, I didn't want to mess it up with a bad stamp. And then I'm just adhering my flat piece to a folded card. And I'm using some foam adhesive dimensionals by Stampin' Up! To put the middle piece on. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.